Do you know that there is a single rule, nothing more than placing one full day between the moment you want something and the moment you buy it, that quietly cancels the overwhelming majority of the money most people waste in their lifetimes, and that the families of my tradition have used this discipline of waiting for generations while the rest of the world buys in the instant of wanting and never understands where its money went? I'm going to reveal something to you today that most people will never understand because they believe their purchases are decisions made by their judgment, reflecting what they actually want, never grasping that the overwhelming majority of what they buy is bought in a brief window of desire that would have closed entirely on its own if they had simply waited. For the past 31 years, I have studied the hidden wealth principles buried inside our oldest sacred texts, and one of the most practical and most immediately powerful of them concerns this very thing: the discipline of waiting before you buy, and the extraordinary amount of waste it eliminates. But let me be honest with you before I go a single step further. I cannot promise you an exact figure. No teacher can honestly tell you that any rule cancels precisely 80% of your waste, and anyone who hands you a guaranteed number is selling rather than teaching. What I can tell you truthfully is this: the great majority of impulsive spending, and for many people very nearly all of it, simply does not survive a single day of waiting, because the desire that drove it was never a real preference at all, but a passing surge that fades on its own. That is a real and remarkable thing, and it does not require me to invent a percentage. Hold that honesty through everything that follows. By the end of this video, you will understand the rule of waiting, why desire behaves the way it does, what actually happens inside a person during that one day, and how to use this discipline yourself, beginning with your very next temptation. And the deepest part of what I will teach you, the profound thing the waiting reveals about what you truly want, the part almost no one grasps, is the part my grandfather told me holds the real key to money that is never wasted. Most people will never learn this, because they buy in the instant of wanting, while the wise wait and let the wanting reveal itself. Stay with me until the end, because this single discipline can change what happens the next time you want something. Let me take you back to where I first learned this. I grew up in a home where nothing was ever bought in the moment of wanting it. It was one evening, after a holiday had ended, when my grandfather called me into his study. The room smelled of old paper and candle wax, and he told me he was going to teach me the rule of waiting. I need to stop here for a moment. What I'm about to share changed my life, and it's already changing thousands of others. I've put everything into the Jewish Money Code, 3 complete books with all the rituals, prayers, and ancient principles that wealthy Jewish families have protected for generations. This isn't just a video. This is the beginning. If you want the complete system, the link is in the description and pinned in the first comment. He said most people buy in the instant that desire strikes them, and they believe that instant reveals what they want. They are wrong, he told me. The instant of desire reveals almost nothing about what a person truly wants. It reveals only that a desire has struck them, and desires arrive and depart like weather. Put a single day between the wanting and the buying, he said, and you will discover something astonishing. Most of what you wanted, you no longer want at all. It vanished by itself. And every one of those vanished wants, had you bought it, would have been money gone forever on something you did not actually want. He told me that this single discipline had preserved more of our family's money than any investment ever made. Then he taught me what the waiting truly reveals, and he made me promise that one day I would pass it on. I have to be honest with you, because I did not always understand him. When I was a younger man, I bought as most people buy, in the instant of wanting, immediately, treating the strength of the desire as proof that the purchase was right. And my money drained away accordingly, into 1,000 things I had wanted intensely for about an hour and then never thought about again. I could not understand why my home filled with objects that meant nothing to me, why I could not point to any single extravagance, and yet had nothing saved, why the money went and left so little trace of itself. So over the years, I finally understood what my grandfather had taught me. I began to wait, one full day between wanting and buying, without exception, exactly as he had shown me. And the difference was undeniable. The great majority of what I had been so certain I wanted simply evaporated by the next day, and I watched, month after month, as money that would have vanished into nothing stayed exactly where it was. It was as though I had been paying for weather. That is when I understood that my grandfather had been right all along. The instant of desire proves nothing. The day of waiting proves everything. Why does this work? Because the sacred texts and the wisdom of my people have always understood that desire is not the same as judgment, and that the space between impulse and action is where a human being actually becomes free. Our tradition teaches endlessly about the mastering of the appetites, that the mighty person is the one who conquers their own impulse, that desire pulls while wisdom must govern, that the one who acts immediately upon every craving is ruled by it rather than ruling it. Our whole tradition is built on the sanctification of waiting. We do not eat without pausing to bless. We do not spend the seventh day as we spend the others. We build deliberate gaps between wanting and having, so that a person remains a person rather than an appetite. The ancient sages understood that an impulse acted upon immediately is never examined, and that examination is the only defense a person has against being governed by every passing craving. They understood that the gap itself is the discipline. The families of my tradition, who preserved modest resources through the hardest of centuries, have always understood the power of the pause. I am holding in my hand right now the book where I have written down the complete teaching about wealth, the mastering of impulse, and much more besides. It is called The Ancient Wealth Code, and inside it I have laid out all 10 of the principles that families like mine have used for 3,000 years to build wealth, protect it, and pass it down without losing it to the chaos of the world. The discipline of waiting that I am sharing with you today flows from the very heart of those 10 principles. The book contains the rest. It is available right now in the description below this video and pinned in the first comment. If what I am sharing is awakening something in you, then go and get your copy, because the people who transform their lives are the ones who act while the understanding is fresh. And while you are listening, write these 3 words in the comments right now. Wait one day. Write it, because to name the discipline is the first step toward keeping it. I know exactly what you are going through right now. I know what it is to look around your home at things you were once certain you needed and now barely notice. I know the strange guilt of not being able to identify a single extravagance, while somehow having nothing saved. I have to pause here because thousands of you have already downloaded the Jewish Money Code collection, and the messages I'm receiving are incredible. People paying off debt, attracting unexpected money, finally breaking the cycle of poverty. These 3 books contain everything: the rituals, the prayers, the mindset shifts, the daily practices, the complete system. The link is waiting for you in the description. Every day you wait is another day stuck in the same patterns. Now, let me share the most powerful secret. I know the feeling of wanting something so intensely that not buying it seems impossible, and then not being able to remember 3 weeks later what it even was. I know because I lived it myself, and because I have sat across from thousands of people over these 3 decades who have lived it too. Good people whose money leaks away not through any great foolishness, but through 100 small purchases made in the instant of wanting. Your money need not leak this way. There is a discipline of waiting that stops it, the discipline my people have kept for generations. Let me tell you why buying in the instant of desire costs so much, because until you understand this, nothing will change for you. The first reason is that desire has a shape people never notice. It rises fast, peaks, and then falls on its own, usually within hours. But because people buy at the peak, they never once observe the falling, and so they live their entire lives believing that every desire they have ever had was permanent and real. The second reason is that the intensity of a desire feels like evidence of its importance, but intensity and importance have almost nothing to do with each other. The most intense wanting you will ever feel is often for something you will have forgotten entirely by next month. And the third reason is that everything around you is now engineered specifically to close the gap between wanting and buying. One tap, one click, saved details, no friction, no delay, no chance to think. Precisely because those who sell to you understand exactly what I am telling you, that the gap is where the sale dies. What every one of these failures ignores is the discipline of the gap. They buy at the peak, when the ancient wisdom teaches that nothing should be acted upon at the peak of the impulse that produced it. There is profound truth in this understanding, that desire rises and falls on its own, that a want which cannot survive one day was never a preference but a surge, that the space between impulse and action is where judgment actually lives. This was not asceticism, but observation. The one who waits a day buys only what they truly want, and their money accumulates. The one who buys at the peak buys the weather, and their money vanishes without a trace. This is the secret you have been kept from, that most of what you spend is not chosen at all, and one day of waiting is enough to reveal it. The universal truth that the ancient sages understood is this: a person is governed either by their impulses or by their judgment, and the only thing standing between the two is a deliberate gap. The rule of waiting is the practical embodiment of that truth. It refuses to act at the peak of desire, and instead places one full day between the wanting and the buying, so that the desires which were merely weather can pass on their own, and only what a person actually wants survives to be purchased. When you keep this rule, you stop paying for passing surges, and you begin buying only what you would still choose with a clear head. I have witnessed this change lives in ways that defy ordinary explanation. I have seen people who could never save a coin begin waiting one day before every purchase, and within a few months find money accumulating for the first time in their adult lives, not because they had deprived themselves of anything they actually wanted, but because they had stopped buying things they did not, and every one of them came to understand the same secret I am about to reveal in full. So let me now show you this rule and its deepest secret in full, because I have given you enough context, and you are ready to receive it. Prepare yourself first, because this only works when you approach it with the right heart. You must come to this willing to let the rule be absolute rather than negotiable, because a discipline with exceptions built into it is not a discipline at all. Set aside the belief that your desires are your judgment, and approach this with the honest heart of someone willing to discover how much of their wanting is weather. And I will speak now in principles, for every household differs, and small necessary purchases obviously need no ceremony. This is for anything beyond the daily and the trivial, and you will know the difference perfectly well. The first part of the rule is that one full day passes between wanting and buying, without exception. The moment you find yourself wanting something, you do not buy it. You note it, you leave it, and you let a full day pass. The principle is that no desire should be acted upon at its peak, because the peak is precisely when judgment is least available. So the first movement is simply this: the gap, absolute and non-negotiable. Do not shorten it because the desire feels especially strong. That is exactly when the rule matters most. Do not shorten it because you are certain this one is different. Every impulse claims to be different, and that claim is the impulse speaking. This absolute gap is the foundation of the entire discipline, and everything else depends on your refusal to negotiate it. The second part is that you must return to it deliberately after the day has passed, rather than simply forgetting. This is where most people misunderstand the rule. The discipline is not wait and hope you forget. It is wait, then decide with a clear head. So after the day has passed, you return to the thing deliberately and ask honestly whether you still want it. And you will find, to your genuine astonishment, that the great majority of the time you do not. The desire has simply gone, leaving no trace, exactly as my grandfather said it would. And when it has not gone, when a day later you still want the thing with a settled and clear mind, then you may buy it freely and without guilt, because now you are buying a preference rather than a surge. This deliberate return is what makes the rule a discipline of judgment rather than a trick of forgetting, and it is what allows you to buy what you truly want with a completely clear conscience. The third part, and this is the deepest part my grandfather made me understand, the profound thing the waiting reveals, is that the day of waiting shows you the difference between the things you want and the things you are using to fill something else entirely. Now, everything I've shared with you today is powerful, but I want to be honest with you. This is just a fraction of the complete system. In the ancient wealth code, I lay out all 10 principles step by step, principle by principle. What you've learned in this video flows from the heart of those 10 principles. The remaining principles go even deeper, and some of them are the most transformative teachings I have ever shared. The link is in the description and pinned in the first comment. If this video has opened your eyes, the book will change your life. But let me finish revealing this third part, because it holds the very heart of the rule. The deepest thing the waiting reveals is this. The desires that vanish overnight were almost never about the object at all. They were about something else. A bad afternoon, a feeling of lack, a need to be seen as someone who owns such a thing, a hollowness that wanted filling. And the day of waiting exposes this with almost cruel clarity, because a want that was truly about the object survives the night, while a want that was really about a mood dies with the mood. The texts teach a principle that sounds like a paradox, but is in truth a law. Give, in order that you may become wealthy. And here is its profound connection to the waiting. The hollowness that drives impulsive buying is the same hollowness that the open hand actually heals. The person who feels empty and buys stays empty and now has less. The person who feels empty and gives, who turns outward instead of grasping inward, finds the hollowness filled by the very act that grasping could never accomplish. So the deepest use of the day of waiting is this. When a desire dies overnight, ask what it was really about, and when the answer is emptiness rather than the object, open your hand instead of your wallet. Give something, serve someone. I have watched this work in my own life more times than I can count. The purchases that would not survive the night were nearly always attempts to buy my way out of a feeling, and the open hand did in an hour what the object would never have done at all. This is the deepest secret of the rule, that the waiting does not merely save your money, it reveals your emptiness, and the open hand is what actually answers it. So now you have the rule and its deepest secret in full. Let one full day pass between wanting and buying, absolutely and without negotiation. Return to it deliberately afterward and decide with a clear head, buying freely what survives. And when a desire dies overnight, ask what it was truly about. And if the answer is a hollowness, open your hand rather than your wallet. Keep this rule, and the overwhelming majority of what you would have wasted simply never leaves your hands. Let me tell you what to expect, so that you do not lose heart. Do not expect an exact percentage. I have told you honestly that no one can promise you a number, but do expect to be genuinely shocked within the first month by how much of what you were certain you wanted simply evaporates by the next morning. What you will notice first is the discomfort of the gap itself. Impulse resents being made to wait, and the first several times will feel unreasonably difficult. Then you will notice the evaporation, and it will astonish you. And within a few months, you will notice money simply staying where it is, without any sense of deprivation at all, because you have not given up a single thing you actually wanted. Trust the gap, return deliberately, and let your desires prove themselves. Now I must give you some warnings. The first warning is this: do not negotiate the rule. The moment you allow exceptions for desires that feel especially urgent, you have destroyed it entirely, because urgency is precisely the signature of the impulses this rule exists to catch. The second warning concerns necessities and genuine time-limited matters. Do not apply this rigidly to the ordinary purchases of running a household, nor use it as an excuse for the paralysis that never decides anything. Some things genuinely must be bought today, and wisdom knows the difference between an impulse and an obligation. The third warning is about the open hand. Do not use giving as a new way to spend impulsively. The same surge that reaches for an object can reach for a grand gesture. And do not imagine that the open hand excuses you from actually examining what your emptiness is about. And do not let this rule become miserliness. It exists so that you may buy what you truly want with a free conscience, not so that you may deprive yourself of everything. The Talmud teaches both the mastering of impulse and the enjoyment of what is rightly ours. Keep the gap absolute, decide clearly, give genuinely, and never let discipline curdle into meanness. With this understanding comes responsibility. There is a deeper teaching beneath all of this that took me many years to truly grasp. My grandfather told me, long after he first taught me the rule, that it is not really about money at all. It is about whether a person is governed by their impulses or by themselves. Most people spend their entire lives being moved by whatever surge arrives, buying, eating, speaking, reacting, all at the peak of an impulse that would have passed on its own. And they mistake this for freedom, when it is the precise opposite. But the deeper wisdom is that a person becomes free exactly in proportion to the gap they can hold between an impulse and their response to it, and that this gap is the whole of self-mastery in every area of life, not merely money. To learn to wait one day before buying is to begin learning to wait one breath before speaking in anger, one moment before reacting, one night before deciding. And it is that capacity to hold the gap more than any technique that ultimately makes a person the master of their own life rather than its passenger. Let me be honest about my own failures. For years I bought at the peak of every impulse and called it decisiveness, and I filled my life with objects that meant nothing, while nothing accumulated. And even after I learned the rule, there were times when I negotiated it, telling myself that this particular thing was genuinely different, that waiting would mean losing the opportunity, that the urgency was real, and every single one of those exceptions turned out to be the impulse itself doing the talking, and every one of them cost me. There were also times when I waited correctly and saved the money, but never once asked what the vanished desire had been about, and so I kept feeling the same hollowness and reaching for the same relief in 100 other ways. I had to learn both halves. That is the hardest lesson of all, that the gap must be absolute, and that the emptiness it reveals must actually be answered. I have witnessed this transform people of every kind. I have seen people from every nation and every walk of life stop buying at the peak of desire, begin holding one full day between the wanting and the buying, and watch the majority of their waste simply disappear without any sense of sacrifice at all. They possess no extraordinary willpower. They simply refuse to act at the peak. That is the only difference between the person whose money accumulates and the person who cannot explain where it went. One holds the gap, one buys the weather. And let me tell you why this matters more now than perhaps ever before. Look at the world around you. a world in which the gap between wanting and buying has been deliberately and systematically destroyed, where a desire that strikes you at midnight can be satisfied before you have finished feeling it, where your details are saved and the purchase is a single tap and there is no friction anywhere by design. In times like these, when the entire machinery of commerce is built specifically to prevent you from ever waiting, the ancient discipline of the pause is more needed than ever. Those who deliberately rebuild the gap that has been engineered out of their lives keep money that everyone around them loses without ever noticing. The ancient principles were forged by a people who mastered their impulses through centuries when a single wasted coin mattered enormously, and they will serve you just as faithfully in the abundance and temptation of today. So let me bring this together. You now know the rule of waiting, that desire rises and falls on its own, that a want which cannot survive one day was never a preference but a surge, that you must hold the gap absolutely, and then return deliberately to decide with a clear head, and that when a desire dies overnight, you should ask what it was truly about, and answer emptiness with an open hand rather than a purchase. You know how to keep it. One full day, no exceptions, a deliberate return, and the open hand where the hollowness is. And you know that beneath it lies something deeper than money, that freedom itself is the size of the gap you can hold between impulse and action. This is not theory. This is practical, proven wisdom that has carried families through 3,000 years, and it can change what happens the very next time you want something. You are not weak for seeking this knowledge. You are wise. The fact that you have stayed with me until now, when most clicked away long ago, tells me you are different, that you are ready to be governed by your judgment rather than your impulses. The Talmud teaches that the divine helps those who take the first step. You now stand at a choice. You can close this video and keep buying at the peak of every desire, filling your home with things that will mean nothing to you in a month, wondering forever where the money goes. Or you can hold the gap the very next time something strikes you. One full day, no negotiation, and watch how much of your wanting was only weather. But carry this knowledge with the seriousness it deserves, and with the honesty it demands. The unseen order sees every intention and every act. Hold the full day without exception. Return deliberately and decide with a clear head. Buy freely what genuinely survives. Ask honestly what the vanished desires were about. Open your hand where the emptiness is. Follow this rule exactly in the spirit I have given it, and never let it become either negotiable or miserly. This is sacred wisdom, not a trick, and it must be honored as such. If this teaching has reached something in you, subscribe to this channel, because every week I share the ancient wisdom of my people, the secrets of building, protecting, and multiplying wealth that most will never teach openly. Turn on the notifications so you do not miss what comes next. And before you go, tell me in the comments about something you once wanted desperately and cannot even remember now. Share this video with someone you care about whose money leaks away in 100 small purchases they cannot account for, because this knowledge is meant to be passed on. And if it has given you value, let others find it. May you learn to hold the gap between wanting and having, and to know your true preferences from your passing weather. May the emptiness that once reached for objects be answered by your open hand instead. May your open hand always be met with an open hand in return. May you find freedom where you were governed by impulse, and money remaining where it once quietly vanished. Your money need not leak away into things you never truly wanted. You are one who can hold the gap and buy only what you would still choose with a clear head. And from this day forward, you know the discipline my people have kept for generations. Wait one day, open your hand, and use these ancient secrets wisely. Shalom. I have to pause here because thousands of you have already downloaded the Jewish Money Code collection, and the messages I'm receiving are incredible. People paying off debt, attracting unexpected money, finally breaking the cycle of poverty. These 3 books contain everything: the rituals, the prayers, the mindset shifts, the daily practices, the complete system. The link is waiting for you in the description. Every day you wait is another day stuck in the same patterns. Now, let me share the most powerful secret.